Writing a good resume is not easy. Choosing between dozens of different templates and formats, figuring out which information you want to include and highlight to potential employers, and doing it all concisely as possible is challenging. In this video, we want to highlight some key things you need to know when writing your resume. Firstly, it's important to always remember that your resume is a reflection of who you are as a professional. Make sure that all the information you do have listed on your resume is accurate, honest, and authentic. While you can write from the first person perspective, try to avoid using pronouns like I, me, my, and we. Using personal pronouns is redundant, since your potential employer already knows you are talking about yourself in your resume. As an employer takes on average 30 seconds to look over a resume, you should have your most important information about yourself highlighted for the reader to recognize right away. Remember to use straightforward language in bullet point form throughout your resume, as this will also help keep your resume concise and easy to understand. For length, always try to keep your resume 2 pages at most, unless the job posting specifies otherwise. Keeping your resume 2 pages helps you to avoid unnecessary clutter, and it gives you more room to expand on what you already have written down. In your resume, include easily identifiable numbers, such as how long you worked at a particular job for, how many people you have supervised, how many products you've sold, and so on. This will give your potential employer an easier, more detailed understanding of your past work experiences and qualifications. While a potential employer is going to primarily look at your previous work ventures, don't forget to include your voluntary and unpaid work experience. This information is still important to highlight, as it reflects your passion and dedication towards community-based initiatives, as well as the skills you've gained along the way. Finally, as you'll be applying to different jobs, don't forget to tailor your resume to whatever job you're applying to. You can do this by including, excluding, and highlighting certain information about yourself that you want a potential employer to know. We hope this information helps on how you can create a good resume for yourself. If you'd like, please feel free to take a look at the template we've provided through this link for more information. Interviews are typically the most stressful part of applying for jobs. It can feel pretty daunting getting ready for a job interview. There's a lot to prepare for when it comes to a job interview, and the stress of knowing that a good or bad interview can dictate how likely you are to get a job only adds more pressure onto things. Not to worry, in this chapter we are going to be discussing what you need to know so you can best prepare yourself for a successful job interview. Before we go over the important need to knows regarding job interviews, here are some tips and tricks you may find useful. When getting ready for a job interview, don't forget to bring a notebook and a pen to take down any notes as you need to, as well as an extra couple copies of your resume and cover letter. If you have references readily available to provide, make sure you have the full contact information for these individuals. This includes their first and last names, their emails, and phone numbers. Bring a bottle of water with you just in case you get thirsty, and do your best to arrive at least 10 minutes early for your interview. This will reflect to your employer that you are punctual, organized, and that you are prepared for your interview. Now that we've covered that, let's get into what you can do to really prepare yourself for a job interview. One easy way to prepare yourself is to follow the 4 P's format as shown on ALIS Alberta's website. The first of the 4 P's is to prepare yourself. This means being as prepared as you can to talk about yourself for your interview. Part of giving a good interview is being able to clearly communicate anything you need to about yourself. Using strong first-person language reflects self-confidence, self-awareness, and an ability to clearly articulate your skills and the qualities you bring to the potential employer. When you do discuss the values and skills you bring to the organization, make sure to tie them back to either the role you are applying to or the company or organization as a whole. This brings us to our next point. Make sure you research the company or organization that you're applying to. Know their history, mission statement, values, facts, general information, and how you see yourself growing within them moving forward. You can also reach out to someone that already works at the company or organization for more information. The more research you do to prepare yourself, the better. The second of the 4 P's is to practice. In preparing yourself for your interview, get a friend, family member, or partner to test you by asking you a series of questions that are typically asked during the hiring process. Going over questions in advance not only helps to reduce stress, but it better prepares you for answering questions effectively during your interview. Be mindful of your body language, posture, eye contact, pace at which you answer questions, and even where you place your hands as you are speaking. Don't forget, non-verbal communication is just as important as verbal communication during an interview. This segues us into the third of the 4 P's, which is presentation. How you choose to present yourself to a potential employer is extremely important. To a potential employer, how you choose to present yourself in an interview can say a lot about whether they believe you will be a good fit for their team or not. Here are some tips and tricks you can follow when figuring out how to best present yourself for a job interview. First, and most important thing to remember is to be well-groomed, dressed appropriately, and hygienic for your interview. This means wearing appropriate clothing, nothing too tight, too loose, or too revealing, or too casual. Business attire is typically appropriate interview wear. Make sure that your hair is styled appropriately, that your shoes aren't runners or anything too casual, and that you're not over-accessorizing. Other things to keep in mind is to make sure that your cell phone is turned off during the interview, that your clothes aren't too wrinkled or misbuttoned, and that you're at least 10 minutes early. While something like piercings and tattoos are to your discretion, a general rule to follow is remove any piercings and cover up any tattoos you have for at least the interview process. After the interview is over, you can then inquire about their dress code relating to tattoos and piercings.
Now that we've gone over what you need to know when applying for jobs, let's talk about what things can look like when you are employed and working. Work looks different for everyone. Work can change depending on the job, whether you're part-time, on contract, casual, full-time, permanent, a temporary foreign worker, paid hourly, salaried, commissioned, and so on. As we are still navigating COVID-19, a lot has changed when it comes to the way we work. In this section, we'll be exploring what you need to know when it comes to your rights as an employee. Firstly, it's important to know your basic human rights before you're hired. This means that under the Alberta Human Rights Act, it's illegal to discriminate against or treat someone unfairly in the workplace due to any of the following: race, religion, beliefs, color, gender, including pregnancy and sexual harassment, gender expression, gender identity, physical disability, mental disability, age, ancestry, place of origin, marital status, source of income, family status, and sexual orientation. An employer can't refuse your job application or deny you an interview based on any of these categories. Also, if you are above the age of 18, an employer cannot tell you that you are too young or too old for a particular job. For things like drug and alcohol testing, you can be tested for substances, but only after you're hired, provided that your employer can show the test is reasonable, justifiable, and does not violate your human rights. Similar to drug and alcohol policies, your employer can implement a dress code after you're hired so long as it doesn't interfere with your religious practices and beliefs or your physical well-being. It's important to always remember that regardless of your age, your employer must follow the legislative standards of employment. Regarding vacation pay, if you're salaried, paid hourly, weekly, or even by commission, your employer is entitled to give you vacation pay. After 1 year of employment, you're entitled to 2 weeks vacation. After 5 years, you're entitled to 3 weeks vacation. For general holiday pay, Alberta has 9 stat holidays: New Year's Day, Family Day, Good Friday, Victoria Day, Canada Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, Remembrance Day, and Christmas Day. Certain days, Easter Monday, Boxing Day, and Heritage Day, are all up to your employer whether you get those days off or not. If you do work on a stat holiday, there are two options of payment available to you. Option 1 is that you get your regular wage as well as 1.5 times what you normally make on top. And option 2 is that you still get your regular wage but a future day off in lieu. You and your employer will decide together which option best works for the both of you. But just remember, you are entitled to either option if you do work a stat holiday. You should also know that under Alberta's current legislation, there are 11 different types of leaves you can go on. Although we don't have the time to go into all 11 of them, we will list them out for you to know. The 11 types of leaves include bereavement, citizenship ceremony, compassionate care, critical illness, death or disappearance of a child, domestic violence, long-term illness and injury, maternity leave, paternal leave, personal and family responsibilities, and finally, reservist leave. We will include the link to the booklet for you to review each leave further. Finally, we want to conclude this section by reminding you that you have 3 fundamental rights when it comes to working: the right to refuse unsafe work, the right to know about potential hazards and basic access to health and safety information, and the right to participate in discussions regarding employee health and safety protocols. These are all very important when it comes to working at any job. This concludes our employment right portion of our professional development video series. Be sure to click on the link for more information regarding your right as an employee in Alberta.
Finding resources for job readiness can be a bit challenging, so we've gone ahead and found some for you. Please make sure to check out this 211 website for resources in Alberta that can help you with employment. Thank you so much for watching our series, and be sure to check out our other videos if you haven't already.